that what that is?
Yeah.
If we can, let's go ahead and call this, it's 5:45. If we could go ahead and call this meeting to order. Mary, would you do the roll call, please?
Mr. Kirby.
Here.
Mr. Wright.
Here.
Mr. Lopez.
Here.
Mr. Hennis.
Here.
And Ms. Harrington. Here.
We are down to the first item on our agenda for this evening, a safe return to in-person instruction plan. Dr. Battle, you are on, please.
Okay, very good. Yes, thank you very much, President Hennis. And today we have some information that's extremely important to schools and what's required by the state. And fortunately, we have great leadership in Marilyn Gardner, who's going to share with you all the wonderful work that has occurred with staff to establish and develop it. So at this time, Marilyn, make a comment.
Thank you, Dr. Battle, and good afternoon, members of the board. Appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit of information with you in a study session give you a little context about the safe return to in-person instruction and why we're needing it and just the general context. But I did include a copy of the PowerPoint so you can take that with you, or if you can't see up here.
I also put it in Word docs.
You did, okay,
Yes.
wonderful, thank you. Before we get very far into it, I did want to take the opportunity just to give you a quick update. I gave you a very similar document in February when I presented. And so this is for 21-22, the current status of the grants that we have in the grants office. It is very early in the grant cycle, and so we will be getting additional funding in Title I, Title II, and Title III in February. There will be carryover. And so just make note of that if you would. We do have an additional school safety grant. It's the federal recovery funds, and that will provide for a second school social worker at Vista if we can find one. That's the second part of that. We are in competition with absolutely everybody else in the state. And so we very fortunately, we're able to increase the salary range for that position, I think it was in the last board meeting, to make it a little bit more competitive. And so we are actively looking. So if you know anybody who is qualified for school social worker, please put them our way. But we're looking at the funding for that one being fairly equivalent to the size of our other school safety. And so that's why that one is in red. We did recently, literally last week, applied for a computer science PD program, which we're hoping to get a total of $50,000 for, split between the two schools. And also the Title VI impact aid, that one is also in red because we have not received our current year allocation. But just to give you an idea of how much that generally is, this last year it was $169,000. So. I will give you another update later in the year when we're at our full capacity as far as funding goes, but that's where we're at right now. Okay, so ESSER 3. This is our third ESSER grant in the last couple of years for the elementary and secondary school relief fund. We did receive $6.9 million in this one. It is good through 9/30 of 2024, so it's for the next 3 years. This one still supports all of the same expenditures that ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 will cover, all of the safety and security, adding additional custodial staff or those types of things to help in prevention of COVID transmission. So it still has all of the same elements as ESSER 1 and ESSER 2. There are some very distinct differences with ESSER 3 now that we're in the third reiteration of that. What we're seeing now are a couple of new requirements. One of them is that 20% of the total funding has to be spent on addressing what they're calling learning loss by using evidence-based academic, social, and emotional learning strategies. And so that's something that we're going to be working on and developing a budget with that in mind. The special emphasis is supposed to be placed on providing support for all of our vulnerable student populations, and those are pretty much all of the Title I populations that are identified. It's very similar to that. So we'll be looking at doing that. We've already got kind of a budget started to get kind of sketched out, but we've got some meetings over the next month or so. The soft due date for that would be the end of August. We need to still look at some additional data before we really start seriously planning for that one. But we have had some preliminary conversations. The element that I wanted to focus on though tonight is the part that's in red. We have to have a publicly vetted safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan, a very long title. But it really kind of says it all. It's a two-part document that has to be submitted with the ESSER 3 application. It is a plan that has to be publicly vetted by the community and approved by the board. And it has to be updated every 6 months for the life of the grant. So for the next 3 years, at Christmas, you'll see this again, and in preparation for next school year. It can be even more frequent if we need to. Hopefully we won't, but if situations change, we can modify it, but at a minimum twice a year. And we also have to have it available by the very first day of school, which is why we're really hurrying along with this one. So it has.
So just as a question,
Sure.
Is there kind of a template?
Yes.
To go, to fill and to use, et cetera? You don't have to reinvent the wheel on this thing.
No, they did provide a template. You should have a copy of it in your packet. ADE provided a template for that one. They want everything that's uploaded to be uniform from the districts. And so the template, I don't know if you can see, but it's kind of a colorful one. Should be in your packet.
Is it the same way, the plan that is?
Yeah, it's
that
the
our
plan.
Yeah,
It's the
so
plan.
it's also attached in there as well.
Yeah. And so basically this is broken out into two sections. The first one is health and safety. And I've listed the elements that are covered, but it's basically we need to describe the policies or procedures, the actions we're going to take to protect staff, students, and visitors from transmission of COVID. And you can see all of the areas listed, very similar to our plan from the previous year, just sort of arranged in a different template. And so we did meet as a leadership team to go through each and every one of these areas. Most of it from last year was retained. The cleaning protocols and those types of things, the strategies for passing between classes to get students to and from as quickly as possible. Lunch times, I think we decided to go back to 2 because the students do not have any contact with each other during that. Those types of things. We went through all of the practical applications related to health and safety as listed here. The vast majority of them are very, very similar. Obviously, the one big one that's changed is that wearing masks is voluntary. And so we did make changes to that. We did have a description of all of our contact tracing procedures, reporting procedures, our contact and interaction with Pinal County Health, and so forth. And so that first half just really talks about all of that. I guess I want to pause maybe before we go on. Did anybody have any questions about any of the content that was in there? Mm-hmm.
It's a very minor thing. I noticed that one of the things was in regards to the current drinking fountains have been changed out to water bottles.
Yes.
My question is, does that meet the state's ADA requirements as far as the high-low units? Because the units that we have are 2 of them side by side, which one is a regular and one of them is for handicap wheelchair accessible.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know whether the water bottle satisfies that ADA requirement?
I haven't looked at every single unit. I've looked at just a few as we were doing inventory the other day. I do know that when Tim was here, we had some discussion about replacing some of the lower units, particularly the outdoor ones. There's a high one and a low one. And so at least that far I'm aware of, they were trying to make appropriate swap outs for that. A lot of the units that I've seen, just the ones at the schools when we were over last week, look to be the same height as the ones that were there previously. So it's not that any got increased, they're just pretty much at the same height. I don't know if anybody else has seen anything else related to
In
that.
the cafeteria at Union, that's how it looks. If there was a low fountain, they kept it and they made sure to keep them at the right height. All the ones outside are all lower anyway.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What we'll do, Mr. Wright, is we'll check on that and I'll make sure I get those funds.
Yeah, one of the other things you mentioned in here was maintaining 3 feet of space.
Mhm.
And I know that we worked last year real hard, so if we start getting full classrooms again, et cetera, I mean, last year we were limited populations kind of deal, so
Yeah.
that's to be addressed, or that's part of that.
Yes, I don't know if you
Sure.
want to address that?
Sure, it'd be my pleasure. So at this point, they're leaving that pretty much on the discretion of the school district. So as we're working with our teaching and learning and our principals, we definitely will be mindful of what we all just said. But we'll also make sure that students can work collaboratively and the teachers have the option to continue with PCE or not, but the mask will not be required. So we'll just continue to observe and be smart about any personal or professional concerns, but we do know that the 3 feet requirement is not necessarily a commitment, but it's something we want to be mindful.
Okay, and then the second part of the plan really focuses heavily on how the district is going to provide continuity of services. So what strategies are we going to employ and make sure that services are provided, they're at high quality, they're continuous, uninterrupted. And so what you see in that section is a very large listing of strategies that we're putting in place to make sure that those services are provided seamlessly as possible. So that is the first section. The second section addresses students' social, emotional wellness, mental health needs. And so we also included strategies in support of that. We had a number of strategies already in place. Again, adding a second social worker. Hopefully we can locate someone to hire, but we do have that opportunity. We did add an additional CNA position, so we will be adding that, and that will be new this year. The school sites themselves have embedded social emotional learning. They also have PBIS, which I'm sure the principals could elaborate much better than I on that. But we did have some of those types of supports already in place, ongoing, and so those will continue next year. Also, our Edgenuity program has social emotional learning, and that is an application that we use quite a bit. So there's a lot there to support students. So any questions about that portion of it?
And just, I mean, I know that there's kind of, I think one of the biggest concerns everybody has going into this year is the academic needs. Obviously, the social and mental needs are definitely, but hopefully with people coming back in fully. But so as we look at this other document, that's where you're describing the academic or plans, et cetera, that are associated with it?
We do go through several strategies that we have identified. There's more to be identified as we go through additional data. Our title programs and the supports that have been provided will continue with those. I know we have some new ideas that we're kind of talking about. Do you want to add anything to that at this point? Or?
Thank you, Carolyn. And what we plan on doing is we want to be very descriptive of what we're going to do with solutions and working with our principals as well as our teaching and learning department. So we're really excited. So we'll make sure we get that to you.
The focus primarily of the second section isn't necessarily a description of all of these strategies we're going to utilize educationally. The focus is very heavy on how we're going to provide continuity, how we're going to maintain. So that's why you see the stipends for the retention in there and those types of things, the increase in the substitute pay, all of those things that the laptop insurance fees are being paid, laptops are being supported, cyber insurance, all those things that are there to protect that educational environment and keep it moving forward. That's the gist of that section, although we did definitely include comments about providing strategies.
I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to how social emotional learning is embedded in the classroom activities. I understand that teachers have received some social emotional learning training. Are there specific strategies that teachers are encouraged to include in their curriculum this year?
You know, I'm not the best person as the grants director to address that piece of it. Some of you probably much more
Really good
familiar.
question.
Yeah.
Can I do this? If you would be so kind, because that's a great question with a big answer.
Yeah.
So we would continue to go through, I'm taking copious notes,
Yes.
and we will provide for all of you our academic plans to address learning loss, our social emotional learning, our graduation requirements, our CCRIs. I mean, we are rocking and rolling, but I don't want to provide a little bit of information. I want to give you details so you all are well informed. That work for you?
That's fine, thank you.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
And so the last piece of this, again, is just to go over our vetting process that we're going to go through. And so if we have your approval to post the draft, then tomorrow it will go on the website. We have translated it into Spanish, so it's available in Spanish and English. We will have the link for a public comment submission. And so all they have to do is click on that and a box comes up and they can type away. We'd love to get anybody's feedback. We're going to be sending email and text blasts to all of the staff, all the parents, and all the students. We are also going to send notification to the mayor's office, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Kiwanis, since they've been very supportive of us. And they can then forward it on to whomever else they want. We will also, the draft will stay open for an entire week. It will close a week next Wednesday at midnight, and then we need a couple of days to kind of incorporate and discuss any suggestions that we get from the public. And then we can make that refined draft available for your review. And so once we get that, then I know I checked today and ADE still does not have the portal created to submit, but we will be ready to go when they do. So. And again, this would be repeated every 6 months. So. And that's the end of my presentation. I'd be happy to take any other questions you might have.
Any other questions for that? I think we'll look forward to the detail coming so we can get buried in all of that fun. And we surely appreciate, detail is good. I think as a group, I think everybody's detail is better. To kind of just get a feel, especially at the start of this coming year. I mean, I think that's the basic note to everybody. Details this year. Very interested in all of that. Anyway, any other questions? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good luck and look forward to this year. We are down to board agenda review. This is an opportune time right now to kind of ask Dr. Battle or any of the other staff that are here right now if there's items within the board agenda tonight. If there's just kind of a question, now's a good time to just kind of, if you have some questions or concerns or before we get to the actual meeting itself.
I would like to thank Dr. Battle on working with us and working through the personnel documents to make sure that all the board members get the information that they need and they feel comfortable with in making a decision to hire these great individuals. So I appreciate that effort that you put into that process.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wright. It's my pleasure. You know, we're working together. It's important to me that you all are informed, and I provide the information in a way that's readable, understandable, and that you can respond to the public. So I appreciate your comment.
And probably some of that effort does reflect on Ms. Reynolds too. The work that she and her department did in order to provide all that information and get it square with everybody. So thank you for your effort too in your office.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the questions we kind of spoken about earlier was a clarification on the after fact purchase was because nobody really likes anything that was, that kind of fallen through the cracks and is getting picked up. So just some clarification for the board members about what that actually is.
My pleasure. Thank you, Chairman Henness. We had a situation where there was an invoice that was from the past school year, this past fiscal year, that had gone unpaid for whatever reason. So we are obligated to pay that invoice in this school year. So both Gina and I are aware that, first of all, there's been great improvement in the fact that we do not want to have any after the fact expenditures. And I want to commend her and her staff for that great work. She and I have a goal of having none, if at all possible. So we'll work towards that end, but that's pretty much what happened in this situation. There was an invoice that did not get paid. So we are obligated to pay for it in this new school.
And the only other one is, I guess we're very fortunate in the personnel that we found a new instructor for the ROTC, the Marine ROTC.
Yes, sir. So we do have, and as you all know, there's a little bit of complexity to make sure that he was cleared and he had all things that were necessary, and we're really excited about the program. We create all kinds of opportunity to ensure that we have the top caliber for all programs, which includes ROTC. So we're looking forward to the support there. You will find another employee coming very soon to help support both schools at this side as well.
I guess the only other thing is, just for clarification, we are ready to adopt our budget. And to go forward with that, everything's signed, sealed, delivered, we're good to go forward with that.
Unless you have additional questions, I know Ms. Salazar is willing to answer, but again, I was not here at the last board meeting. We had a chance to talk prior to that. And then I heard from Dr. Beebe and others that she did a fantastic job. But it would be our pleasure to answer any questions.
I think we went over with Gina the last time, and she did a great job of providing answers and kind of walking us through the whole process and where we're at, et cetera, and how things are going to flow. So I just want to make sure that we're set to go and ready to approve them. It was a draft, basically a template. It was a draft when we were here the other day, and this is the final budget to go to the county at this point.
Correct. Well, the last one was sent to the county as well.
Right.
And this is right. Everything's good to go.
So, Chairman Henness,
Sure.
I understand there was a question as it relates to the administrative percents, and just to call your attention to the document that's there. For Gina or I, I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have, but just please know that it is in your information.
So just as a question, because I asked about this last time, we had it broken up. Where you're showing general administration is about 5%, is that correct? Am I looking at that correctly?
Correct. I don't have
I'll give you my cheers.
Here.
I gotta have it right back.
It's the 3 shades of blue.
Okay. I just have.
Yes.
Yes, that's the 2400 code. That is, I'm going to tell you what each one is. Instruction is your big blue pipe, and that's all teachers and paras. Then you have student support services, which will be the student support services.
Receptionist, attendance, counselors.
Yeah, that's the 13%.
All descriptions are in there.
I don't know. No, the only thing I was asking, the bigger question I had wasn't really it was, at different times, different districts have been accused of having a large amount of overhead on administration. We're running at about 5%, is that correct?
Right, but it's hard to,
I know.
it all depends on what your position is. So that's why I broke it down here. So we have like, our HR director, business services, IT, They all fall within that general administration. But then you have your ESS director and your curriculum directors, and they are in the support services. So it's kind of broken out. It's not all generalized to everyone, but for the most part, we're
So,
fairly
Mike, I think you're asking a great question because our public wants to see that.
Yes.
And I know it's public on the auditor's website. So we want to total that for you before it is there. What are the administrative costs that are total percents of all the categories that are there? And I'll be sure that we get that accurate amount to you this week.
Debbie, and that was all I was asking. That's perfect. Thank you. So are there any other questions or anything else about the board agenda to be presented for this evening?
Is it minutes if I could?
You bet. Dr. Bell, go ahead.
Yeah, I gotta remember to hold this button. So we want you to know, based upon the presentation that Ms. Gardner shared with you, there will be an additional board meeting for approval that is required. So we'll make sure that you have that information in advance, and I will answer all questions that I have here prior to that. And then there will also be some personnel items because of the start of the school year. So I just want to make sure that you know that, and it shouldn't take very long, but those two items will be the gist of it.
And we're looking at the 23rd. You could do it on the phone if you can do a phone. So there's that
I might
option
be able
as well. I'll be at the beach. Sport, you know. It breaks my heart.
Yeah.
As long as I can put my mother-in-law somewhere before we.
So one additional thing that we had talked about, and Steve Hyland had recommended is it's not a training. It is a board just kind of facilitated kind of work session to just kind of get to know each other since we have new members and a new interim superintendent with us, et cetera. It is not a training. It is strictly just kind of a work, kind of a retreat, just kind of get together and just talk about where the district is and just kind of, so Dr. Battle gets a chance to, know us and just kind of get a little bit better feel for us. And I think it's a 3-hour thing. It was something that Steve Hyland had recommended, and it's not an imperative. It's just something that maybe everybody gets a chance to kind of look at dates and stuff at sometime into the future and just do, have a day where we just kind of meet and just kind of talk and visit with just in general. So she gets to know us and we get a better, of where we're headed for this coming year. So just let her know a few of those.
Yes. Question for them? No, very good. No, I appreciate that. So I know Mary's working with, as well to find a date. She will communicate with you all to ensure that that date and time works well with you. I look forward to that opportunity to listen and learn to what your expectations might be. Hopefully you're willing to listen and learn to what I'd like to do in service of this amazing school district. And so I would consider it more of a collaboration so that we can be unified and moving forward, and absolutely not a training. I apologize to those of you that mentioned that it was misspeaking. It wasn't a training, it's a collaborative is what I would like to call it, for us to work together.
Is there a specific time frame that maybe would be better for some?
I think July is going to be kind of
I
crazy
think
with everybody
that, yeah,
traveling. And school's going to start now.
In 2 weeks.
So maybe,
So look to August,
I think that's better.
and also, time of day. So do you want to do later in the day if it's a 3-hour training? Do you want to do a 5 to?
Say training.
Excuse me, collaboration.
There we go.
Evening works better
Those are the
for
questions that they ask when I submit the form. You have to give them a,
Taylor says evening.
Yeah, evening would work better for me.
so maybe start at 5?
Sure.
5:30?
Yeah, that's fine.
5:30?
5:30.
Okay,
We have to, 5:30 is,
okay,
that's when we need to
that's what I'm.
base our timing around 5:30 works. No worries. All righty? 5:30 on the beach, I'll be quiet anyway.
Oh, it won't be next weekend.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we'll be back before everybody's done.
All right, if there's nothing else to come before that, we got about 15 minutes before the start of the board meeting, so let's go ahead and adjourn this, and then we'll pick up here at 6:30 with the regular board meeting. So Dave, we're out.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you spell Q when you say still in Q?
If you need anything.
Just Q?
No, I just,
The Q.
which you can, please, we'll go ahead and reconvene, it is 6:30, it's, we're gonna go ahead and call. Please.
Okay, Mr. Kirby,
Here.
Mr. Wright,
Here.
Mr. Lopez,
Present and accounted for.
Mr. Hennis,
Here.
and Ms. Harrington.
Here.
First up on the agenda tonight is the Pledge of Allegiance. If we could also please stand, and then we'll have a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First up this evening is, item A is to adopt the agenda as presented. To get a motion to adopt the agenda.
We adopt the agenda as presented.
I second.
A motion by Chuck and a second by Taylor. Any other questions? If not, Mary, call for vote, please.
Mr. Kirby,
Yes.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Hennis,
Yes.
Ms. Harrington.
Yes.
Okay, that passed. We have minutes from, June 10th and June 29th. Yes, since we're in July, it's passing so quickly. Get a motion to approve those minutes, if we could please.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I second.
There's a motion by Kelly and a second by Chuck to approve the minutes of June 10th and June 29th as presented. Any other questions? Mary, call for vote, please.
Mr. Kirby,
Yes.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Hennis,
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
We are down to public hearing. Is there anybody, any cards for this evening? Anybody wishing to speak? Okay, then, Dr. Battle, we are down to the superintendent's report. Congratulations, and we are glad and thankful that you're here this evening. I look forward to this coming year. You're on.
Thank you very, very much. First of all, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I really appreciate having had the opportunity to have a great transition with Dr. Edie, and to my opportunity to lead. It's absolutely important that we don't feel that loss, if you will, within our workplace. With that said, I've had a chance to gain more information about this amazing team that's sitting before us right now. And we've just hit the ground running in many ways with our directors' meetings, with our planning, with the reopening plan, with me getting to know a little bit more about each and every one of them and their amazing families and their staff. And we're geared up for an amazing school year. It's really, really exciting. We've got work to do, but we're ready for the good work, and we're going to do it all together. So what I'd like to do during this time is to share a few things, not that we have all night, unless you guys have all night. Okay.
No. We have the amount of time that you need us to be here.
Very good, sir. So no, I will not keep you long, but it's important that we celebrate a few things. So I had a chance this past week to meet with some other superintendents, interim superintendents, and former and current superintendents who are our mentors. And it was invigorating, it was exciting, and everyone was feeling the same way. We were assigned mentors. So I have someone I can pick up the phone and say, hey, what's happening? What do you think about this, that, and the other? So I feel great support, not only from this gentleman, who is the superintendent of Glendale Unified Union School District, but also all of you. So I want to thank you, Chuck, for your compliment earlier, but also want to thank you all for your responsiveness and your service to making me feel comfortable and trusting my leadership here in Casa Grande High School District. It's important to a leader. So I appreciate that. I feel it's sincere and genuine, and I'm ready to do good work. So that opportunity to develop and learn and find that support, as well as knowing that I have yours and the staff, is absolutely perfect. So other things that I think I wanted to share with you that I've learned, not a lot is happening in the summer because of students they're coming back soon, and we're gearing up for that. But three things I want to celebrate. Our DECA team from Casa Grande Union, there's some recognition there. They were awarded the title of the largest DECA chapter within their association in the 2020 school year. This chapter's advisor and student leaders have demonstrated extraordinary commitment to DECA. During the summer months, there's lots of competitions, and our students will come away with many, many awards. So I'm excited to see, I also know the importance of our workforce programs to this wonderful board, but also to the school district. So I want to make sure that I share that recognition. Secondly, FFA earned state recognition. They were awarded the Arizona FFA Chapter of the Year Award and recognized as the #1 chapter in the state of Arizona. This is the second time they received this honor. So when something happens more than once, we know it's not an accident. And so we want to recognize them for all of their great work and dedication to the FFA program. The chapter's application now advances to the national level to be judged. So last year they were recognized as a national finalist. And so one of the two chapters they are one of two chapters in the entire Western United States. So they're doing great things over there. And then thirdly, I'd like to share with you at the beginning of the summer, the Skills USA Casa Grande Union Construction National Competition. This year's Skills USA National Competition continued to be virtual as all things were. And we appreciate Mr. Wagner's support as a sponsor to our amazing students there. The students did very well. They scored high in carpentry, masonry, electrical, and additionally, they performed exceptionally well with their action plans. So we look forward to our students being able to work together on campus. I see great things coming from that, and we'll hope to have more accolades for you all in future board meetings.
That's awesome, and we appreciate it, and we look forward to obviously getting to know your teams and relying and using the quality and talent of the district, and you bringing your insight from the outside world, and kind of helping guide us through these times and helping the kids at Casa Grande, the kiddos at Casa Grande to continue to excel and have the best opportunity to go forward, whether it's CTE or 4-year college or whatever they happen to choose going into the future. So I think that's what we have to do, provide them the opportunity for a chance to succeed. So any other questions or anything else for Dr. Bell? We're down to item 6, which are matters reserved for board action. First up is A, public hearing on the fiscal year 2022 expenditure budget and adoption.
That's just for public comment.
Yeah, and we have nobody here for public comment this evening. And we just want to appreciate Gina and the rest of the group working hard to get the budget put together. And she was here and gave us the board here a couple weeks ago and walked us through where we're at this point. So we want to say thank you for that. So we're down to item B, which is fiscal year 2022, the actual budget adoption. So do we get a motion to approve the budget as presented?
So moved, I make a motion to approve fiscal 21-22 budget expenditure.
Second.
There's a motion by Chuck and a second by Kelly to approve the budget as presented. Are there any other questions? If not, we'll go ahead and Mary, call for the vote, please.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Kennis?
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
When we were fortunate earlier to have a presentation on the safe return to in-person instruction plan. And at this point, and this will be a biannual, just for, and it's based upon a template provided by ADE that we'll be using. And appreciate all the work that you've started and doing to get this done. And it's an evolving document, basically. So we have the safe return to in-person instruction plan before you. A motion to approve that, if we get those.
I motion to approve the safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services draft plan as presented.
There's a motion by Taylor and a second by Joe to approve the draft as presented. Mary call for the vote, please.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes,
Harrington?
Yes.
and thank you for the work, appreciate that. We're down to item D, which is donations, and we're obviously, we're always thankful and very fortunate to get donations. If we get a motion to approve these donations as presented.
I make a motion, we approve the donations as presented in the agenda.
I second.
There's a motion by Chuck and a second by Taylor to approve the donations as presented. And with a thank yous for all of those folks. There's some very nice donations in there. And we'd like to go ahead and make a motion to have, got a motion, so just call for the vote on that.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
Harrington? Yes.
We're down to item 7, which is the consent agenda. We have items A, B, C, D, E, and F. Are there any items that need to be pulled or questions or want to vote separate? If not, we can make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda, items A through F in its entirety.
Motion by Chuck and a second by Joe to approve the consent agenda, items A through F as presented. Mary, call for the vote, please.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
And Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
And with that,
For your record.
it's summertime. This is, next month, we'll see no further business to come before the board. We will go ahead and adjourn, and we sure appreciate everybody and look forward to you working with staff and getting this school year off to start. They're back early.
Yes, sir.
You there, Mr. Gibbons? How's that fast for you?
How's the what?
Is that fast enough for you?
That was much fun.
Do we have an actual start date for the first day of school?
Yeah.